Awesome.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Being a Leader in a Changing World. I am so grateful that you all are here. Um, and it's awesome to see you and some of your faces. um, and I just wanted to meet somebody. Yeah, so thank you for being here. This call was just for me inspired by so many things. What's going on in the world right now, and the the opportunity, the possibility that we have for a completely different conversation, a completely different reality, a completely different way of being and way of showing up in the world. And I would say that for those of us who are seekers and looking for something different and have always known that there's something different, to me, it's a very exciting time. And it's actually our time. A lot of people think the world is falling apart and, like not in total disarray, which it is, of course, in total disarray. But what if that's not a bad thing? Um, and what if there's a massive opening right now for something completely different to be inserted, for people to be invited to? And this is where we all come in. Um, for those of you who, I know a lot of you are, but for those of you who are not familiar with access consciousness, um, I am a facilitator of access consciousness. I've been doing like transformation, whatever you want to call it, like personal development kind of work for, um, gosh, I don't know, 25 years at this point. I was a social worker and a body-centered psychotherapist and a movement teacher for a long time. Did a lot of trauma work and found access consciousness about, I guess, 11 years ago at this point. And it was so different and so pragmatic and so a very energetic uh, body of work, shall we say, that I had never seen change happen as fast with any other modality that I had done before I found access consciousness. And so I shifted gears with what I was doing as a therapist and movement facilitator and dove into this world. Um, Access consciousness it was developed by Gary Douglas and Dane Heer, and it is this amazing, like uber pragmatic, uh, energetic modality. I don't even like to call it a modality because it's so much more than that. Like universe, basically, of tools and processes and conversations that really allow you to change anything that isn't working and create anything that you would like to create in your life and in the world. And I've seen during this time so much change, so much um, that has been like kind of behind the scenes energetic stuff that we do with the access consciousness conversations, changing, really contributing to the change that's happening in the world. And that's one of the things I love about it, is that it's we do all these energetic things and we show up in different ways, and we each one of us choose something different, and it actually changes the world. If you haven't read Being You Changing the World by Dr. Dane here, please do. It's an amazing book. I'm a facilitator of that work as well. It's part of Access Consciousness, and it's phenomenal stuff. And for me, it's like it's so interesting because the seekers of the world, those of us that are looking for something different, those of us that know that something different is possible, those of us that would like to see a world of kindness, a world of contribution, a world where people are honored, a world where everybody has choice, and we honor our own choices and each other's choices, and and a world where we honor the earth and have a communion with the earth, all the things that so many of us know. And then there are things also that you uniquely know that nobody else knows. All of these things are like, this is what the earth is asking for right now. And obviously the earth is there's a lot of intense things going on with the planet, and the pandemic and all of that is sort of part of, I would say, like a symptom of the overall kind of sickness of humanity and what's occurring in the world. And it there's I know for me, before I found these tools, it was always like, gosh, okay, so I can recycle and I can like do all these, like make all these personal choices, and it never felt like enough. And I always had this sense of like, and there's got to be like, couldn't it just be that if I was actually willing to be me and show up and know what I know and like be that in the world, like what if that could be both like enough and also everything, because I can't do that for you. I can't do that for anybody else, but I can do that for me. And as I do it for me and as I choose it for me, we inspire other people to do the same. And what is true for you is not necessarily true for me. It won't look the same for you as it does for me. And that's the beauty of all of us. These sort of like warriors of change and consciousness, and beacons really of possibility in the world. Every single one of us knows something that is a contribution to a greater world. And, like I said, there is this opening right now. Like never before, none of us have seen in our lifetimes, and probably, in the history of humanity. This is a very dynamically changing time. And people that wouldn't normally ask for something different, that might have been sort of okay with the mediocrity of the world in their lives, are actually now being forced by the circumstances of things to look for something different. Sometimes when things aren't too terribly painful, we sort of get complacent and we're like, well, it's okay, and I feel like the world was on that, kind of cruise control mode for a very long time. But what's occurring now is you're basically either going to sink or swim, and again, this is where it comes in, where we come in, because like if you're here on this call, you're a swimmer, you're not a sinker. And Rudrani's doing the strokes. It's like, she might swim like this, I might swim like this, you might swim on your back, or whatever. But let's jump in the, I'm just gonna say the pool, but there's a lake right here. Let's jump in the lake and have some fun, and as we do this, we actually create these ripples by inviting other people to know that they could actually choose something that's true for them, that they could actually have joy in their lives, that they could actually have a different possibility, even in the midst of pandemic and economic destruction and political corruption and all these things. It's like, what if you actually are way more of a beacon of possibilities than you might have been telling yourself you are? And so this is where I want to also kind of play a little bit with what is it to be a leader, you know? And I mean, I have been talking about that, but because a lot of people, we had some conversations before this call, and a lot of people we were talking about how, you know, some people like have such a like they don't see themselves as a leader. And you may just sort of look at this right now. Okay, so do you see yourself as a leader? My guess is that probably a lot of people on this call are like, no, I'm just a plain old, I'm just a swimmer, you know, I'm just a person, you know. Um, and this is the thing, is that the seekers of the world, we have this, one of the tendencies that we have is to judge ourselves so dynamically, way more than we judge other people, you know. And judgment is one of the most insidious things in the world. It's one of the biggest killers of the earth and possibility and consciousness, and you know, different you know, like different realities basically that are available. We judge ourselves, we judge what we know, we judge, you know, what we're doing constantly. And it is this constant low grade erosion of possibilities. Um, and so we have all of this sort of like, we've gotten really good at judging ourselves, you know, and you perceive a difference in you know, you perceive like something that you know about what else is possible. And then, you know, most of us go directly, the next thing is to go to judgment about that, you know, or to judgment about you, because, oh, well, it's not happening out there, nobody else is asking for this, so I must be Pollyanna, you know, I must be stupid, I must be clueless, I must be fill in the blank, or I must be evil underneath it all, I must be terrible and awful. You know, we have all these judgments that like run the show so dynamically, and we don't even realize that they do. And this is beautifully, it's like a perfect scenario for, I will call it this reality, right? The reality of like pandemic and control, and, you know, like political corruption and oppression and all this stuff, like choice being taken away, destruction of the earth, right? There are these few people, you know, in the world that actually desire control, destruction, corruption, power. And we kind of also sort of have a hard time believing that that's even, like, it's like, how could somebody even, surely they're just, you know, no, there are evil people in the world, and they're not you, you know, um, contrary to what you might think underneath it all, right? Which, you know, we all have, a lot of us have that, like, oh, underneath everything, I'm so bad and evil, you know. But what if that's actually not the case? What if you're aware? And when we're not willing to see those energies, we don't see them in anybody, like even the people that are evil, you know. And what if it's not a bad thing or a wrong thing to go, yeah, that person's evil, you know? It's not, what if that's not a judgment? What if it's actually an awareness? And what if you know, also could start to recognize and acknowledge what you are? I'm not even going to say who, I'm going to say what, because you are a different creature. And this is where we don't value ourselves, we don't see ourselves as leaders, you know, because we're just going about our thing, you know, trying to deal with the fact that we judge the shit out of ourselves all the time. And, you know, or you might be like, I don't want to talk to people, I don't want to be in front of people, I don't want to lead people. But what if that is not what being a leader, like, what if that's old? What if that is an outdated sort of construct of what a leader is? And what if a leader is somebody who's willing to actually know what they know? What if a leader is somebody who's actually willing to not doubt themselves, not judge themselves, to be different with themselves? You know, would you be willing to be with you the way you are with other people? Would you be willing to have the kindness with you, the lack of judgment of you, the presence with you, the caring for you, the honoring of you? the willingness to have your own back, like you do with everybody else in your life. Because I guarantee you, if you're here, you probably are far more of all of those things than you think you are. And that goes back to how we judge ourselves. And this is a choice that creates a reality, a different reality in the world, far more dynamically than we realize. And it's like, because there's this sort of like I I would say like underground, but it's not underground anymore. But this sort of like silent, invisible movement of the energy of consciousness and the energy of possibility that we all be. And when you choose to be that with you, then you get to be that more with other people and with the planet and with what you're choosing and what you're doing. And there becomes this like ripple effect and snowball effect and compound effect of, there's more of that in the world, there's more of that in the world, there's more of that in the world. And then somebody else gets inspired and they're like, oh yeah, okay. And then there's more of that, and then there's more, and then there's more. We don't need a majority. We don't need 5 billion people to choose consciousness. We don't need 5 billion people to get out of judgment. We don't need
geen afspraak over, maar je had zoveel dingen te doen. Ik denk, ja.
We don't need a majority of people to choose what it is that we're choosing. You actually don't need anybody else to choose what you can choose, because guess what you can choose is unique to you, and it's unique to me and everybody here. So even, there's hundreds of people I know registered for this call that will probably listen later. 66 people on here right now. So even just the 66 of us, or the however many, I don't know how many hundred people signed up, but the, say 500 of us or whatever, that it's like that alone, it creates a massive change in the world. Around 400. Okay. So it creates a massive change in the world, because all of a sudden there's like, where you used to judge yourself, where you used to stop yourself from choosing to be happy, where you used to stop yourself from whatever it was, like just from being you and being kind with you, there's silence there, where there used to be a lot of noise and a lot of like a cacophony of judgment and sort of like interference, you interfering with you. My computer is getting hot. And as we choose that, it just becomes this, like it becomes more and more substantial, those energies more and more substantial, and truly, like every single one of us has an ability to impact, to invite people in the way that we do. And you guys could, every single one of us could have a conversation about leadership, and it would be different. And that's beautiful. This is the world that we need to move into, is a world where the unique brilliance of every single person is honored. But it will not occur if you don't choose that with you. You have to choose it with you first. And from there, what you can create is enormous. And this creation is one of my favorite conversations. And this really opens up a totally different universe of creation, not just in your life with your business, your money flows, your relationships, your body, all the places where you would like to create something greater, but in the world, what becomes available in the world. So what if we could just let go right now of all the constructs, all the definitions of leadership, what we thought being a leader was, and actually step into exploring that, each one of us with ourselves, exploring what would it be like if I was willing to lead my own life from a place of kindness, from a place of caring, from a place of honoring me, from a place of trusting me, getting out of doubt, going beyond the distraction of all the things that I think I need to handle that I don't actually need to handle. You know, would you be willing to choose that and begin to, you know, and a lot of you guys already have, and you are on that journey. And what else? Like what is available for you to choose today that has not been available before? So I haven't read the comments yet, really. Yeah, cool. Colette said, I've been trying to turn off awareness of the evil of some people, and I realize it's so I wouldn't choose. And when I be the awareness, I am also able to be the choice. Yeah. You know, we don't want to be aware of a lot of things, you know, and this is actually one of the things that comes back to bite us dynamically is we don't want to, we're like, evil, no, it couldn't possibly, you know, evil couldn't possibly be, like, people aren't actually evil. Yeah, there are some people that are, you know, and that doesn't even mean that that's wrong. It's just, it just is, you know. And when you are willing to have the awareness of that as a possibility, you also can use those energies, or the energies that might seem to be evil to you, but they're not actually. They might be energies that, because sometimes it is required to be a very fierce energy or to actually have killing energy, to, you know, I mean, I would love for the evil people in the world to actually die, you know. I'm not going to mince words with that. Like, I don't have a point of view that everybody's life is equally valuable. If you're destroying the planet, bye-bye. As far as I'm concerned, if you're destroying the earth, then bye-bye. If your sole purpose on this planet is destruction and control and power and greed, bye-bye. This is my planet. This is our planet. And that does not, that's not something that I'm willing to allow to happen on my watch. And, you know, you might say, you could say that I'm evil, and that's fine. I'm willing to be evil. But this is how we can use those energies in, you know, it's like if somebody hurt your child, you would want that person to have, you know, consequences, right? And so what are we not willing to be, that if we would be it, would actually change everything? So what are your questions? Who has questions? Water break. Anybody?
I'll play with you.
Go for it.
It's been very interesting since this pandemic started, because I had all these plans to be out in the world, you know, in Europe teaching.
Yeah.
And it was like what you were saying in the beginning about how we're sort of forced into looking at things a completely different way. And yeah. I thought, you know, I'd already been teaching classes online, but nothing like a foundation class or a right voice for you or a relationship done different, which is now what's in my world. And it's been so much fun. I mean, I feel weird even saying that. I've really enjoyed being pushed into a different way of doing things.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's interesting you're talking about being a leader. I imagine that's leadership, taking on a different way of facilitating. Just listening to you talk, I had to say, okay, so truth, am I really a leader in this world? And I had this kind of waffling thing happen.
Yeah.
And so I was wondering if you could speak to that, because I mean, I look at what I'm doing as playing and having a great time. And
well, exactly. Yeah, thank you for the question. That's the thing is that, so we're gonna, a lot of you guys know the clearing statement in Access, and some people that are new don't. So we have a clearing statement that is an amazing tool that is like a delete button. And just deletes a lot of energetic stuff underneath how we, you know, how we limit ourselves, and kind of like all the stuff that holds limitation in place. So this is how it works. So everything that you've decided being a leader is, will you destroy and uncreate all of that? And then if you want to, you can say yes. And the clearing statement is right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, puck, pod, shorts, boys, and beyonds. And that it just kind of changes some of the energy. And you don't have to know how it works. It just works. There's a video and a little page, theclearingstatement.com. You can go there if you want to know about how it works. Because that's the thing is this is where you guys, like, if you changed, we talk a lot about like changing one molecule, you know, sometimes there's like one little molecule that you can turn or change in some way that changes everything. So an amazing tool for playing with the earth and, you know, all these different energetic things that we can change. And if you start to see, it's like, what if you don't have to define yourself as a leader? What if it's sort of kind of an irrelevant, it's like, am I a leader? Am I not a leader? Well, you're just you know, it's not about defining you. But if you don't have to define yourself as that, but you also are willing to acknowledge like the full sort of spectrum of what being a leader is like encompasses. Because one of my go-to quotes from Dane here is, what you don't acknowledge doesn't exist. So if you're like, you might be moving through the world, like inspiring people, and, you know, people see you, and whether you think you're visible or not, you know, if you're here, people are probably watching you in some way. You know, I don't mean on the Zoom, like people, I don't mean that people are like peeping into your Zoom world, but maybe they are. But if you're here, you know, you probably, because here's the thing is, when you're different, you stand out. And if you're here, you're different than the rest of the world. So you stand out in some way to somebody, and you don't even know it. You don't even realize it. We don't even realize it. And so we're just sort of like, well, I'm just doing my thing, you know, and there's all these things that are different about you that are actually an invitation to people that you may not realize, and you also may not be acknowledging. When you start to acknowledge that, like, wow, I am different. Like, I was thinking about this, I always use my skating analogies because I'm addicted to ice skating at the moment. And I started skating about a year ago, right before, so it was like, you know, 6 months before my 50th birthday, which I just think is hilarious, because if you start figure skating when you're like 14, you're considered an adult skater. So I'm like, well, I must be like a senior skater, you know, not senior, I'm really, really good, you know. I'm like ancient in figure skating world, you know. And I didn't even think about that. I was like, well, I want to do it, so I'm just going to do it, you know. And it's become this amazing gift in my life, and I go every day, and it just, yeah, like, it's just really, really fun for me. And I love to geek out on all the details and practice and all that kind of stuff. And I was thinking about it, I'm like, I guess a lot of people, like, I've had people say to me, thank you for that, because I didn't think that I could do something like that. Like, it's almost sort of like, oh, I didn't think I was allowed to do something like that at my age, you know? And I don't have a point of view about age. I'm like, as far as I'm concerned, I am a 14-year-old. So without the weirdness of adolescence, you know? But I will always sort of see myself, I can't imagine ever not feeling like a kid. And because that's just, why not? Like, kids have a lot of fun. Why not? You know? but that's different, and I never think about that, but a few people have said to me, thank you so much, like you've shown me something that was possible that I could choose, and I don't know, like I just go and I skate and I come home and I, do my thing, so there's all these things that you don't realize are different about you that people may notice and be inspired by, um, and that is these are the things that when you acknowledge them, it's not about like, self-aggrandizement, but it is about just acknowledging and going, oh, okay, wow, I am different, and then that, oh, I am an invitation in some way. Oh, even just having fun, like choosing joy, that in and of itself is so different in this world, right? Especially right now. And it's one of those things. I was actually thinking this morning, I was like, God, maybe we should do like a how to be happy class or something. Cause I like, I don't think about, like, I'm really happy. I have a really fun life. But I don't think that, yeah, happiness is just a choice. I don't think about, I forget sometimes that not everybody chooses what's fun for them, because nobody is encouraged to do that in this world, and that's like, I mean, to me, that's like absurd, but for a long time, that was my life as well. And what if that is the simplest way to change the world, is actually to just give yourself full permission to choose a life of joy and to create a life that is joyful for you? What if that is actually like, what if that is the way that you become a leader in a world that is starving for joy, absolutely starving for it, trying to get it in all these weird, fucked up ways that don't work, because it's all about finding it outside of you, going and getting it outside of you. And people are like, I mean, one of the beautiful things about access consciousness is there's a lot of great money tools and with this stuff, amazing money tools and business and creation and stuff. So, you start using these tools, people start creating more money, their businesses grow like in really amazing, weird, wacky, wonderful ways. And you can upgrade your life, like you can, have a lot more fun things, travel, a lovely home, cars, whatever, but that is, and I do see some people go, like, actually they start to play with these tools and they're like, well, I'm going to get rich and I'm going to have a house and I'm going to da. That's cool. It can totally help you create that. But if you are doing that as a proof of your joy or a way to have joy, you have it backward. It's actually the joy that you choose in your life and living that allows those things to show up even faster. And you can have the cars and the house and the travel, whatever is fun for you, you can have it. It doesn't mean anything about you. It doesn't matter to you. Like it's not, it doesn't, like, your happiness, it becomes unshakable, because you can lose your money, your whatever, your cars, your whatever you like, your fun stuff, you can lose it. And I was like, okay, well, I'm still happy. I still have me. I still have choice. I'm still willing to wake up every day and create something greater, and I always say that your willingness, like knowing that you are capable of creating anything, which is one of the great gifts of the tools of access consciousness, knowing that you are capable of creating absolutely anything, like truly anything that you choose, you can create. You can actualize it. Knowing that is the only true like security. You know, people look for financial security or job security or whatever, you know, and if anything has shown us that really doesn't exist, it's this past year and a half. You know, it's like economy, you know, gone to shit, whatever. I mean, the economy is just weird. I don't even, it's like gone to shit, but not, because everybody has money, but it's all fake money. It's very strange. Who knows what'll happen? But that's the thing, is you don't need, I mean, you can have awareness. You can go, cool, like this is probably not going to play out the way everybody thinks it is, you know, and you use your awareness and you tap into the future. You get to actually know the future. You may not be able to define it or say exactly what it's going to be or whatever, but you have an awareness of the future, and then you choose, you choose, you know, what you choose in your life now. Based on that, you use that as your sort of guiding energy, and trusting that is a big part of being a leader. Is, you know, leading your own life from awareness, and that is your only sort of, you know, security blanket, so to speak. It's your only kind of, it's the only place where you actually, it doesn't matter what occurs in the world. You, if you have awareness and you're willing to choose, and you know that you can create anything, you're good. Anything can happen on the planet and you're fine, because you know you're an infinite being. That's the only thing that can't be taken away from you. Now, what would it be like to have a world with even let's say, you know, 100,000 people that knew that lived that, you know, or let's say 100,000 more than there are now. I don't know how many people there are now. Probably not even that many. That's cool. Like that's an energy where I'm like, oh yeah, like, okay, and then maybe 1,000,000. That'd be fun, you know. But this is where we have that like 100th monkey effect, you know, where everybody, you can't make other people choose it. Somebody asked about, you know, when people have a resistance to access consciousness, like there's, I think, a lot of bars facilitators and facilitators on this call. So, you know, if you have a business of access consciousness and you're sharing it with people, you're inviting people to come and take bars classes. Bars is a hands-on modality, points on the head, amazing. It's like a total brain relaxation. It's amazing. Basically hands-on energy work. And a lot of people teach classes. You can learn it very easily. You can learn it in a day. You know, people, what do you do with people's resistance to the bars and access consciousness? Nothing. Who cares? I mean, this is not something that everybody in the world is going to choose, you know, and who cares? Like there's 8 billion people on the planet, and there's a lot more people now than there were a year ago or 2 years ago that are asking for something different, desperate for it, hungry for it, and have no idea that something different even exists. But they're like dying because somewhere they know something could be different and they haven't been invited to it, you know. And sometimes it takes decades for somebody to choose, you know, or years or whatever. If you don't have a point of view that anybody needs to choose it, A, for the world to be different, B, for your business to be successful, then you can just be the honoring and this, like the space of invitation for people. Like you can honor where they're at, you know. And when you need people to be different, that is not being a leader. That's not the kind of leader that I desire to have in the world. That's the kind of leaders that we have right now, unfortunately, but they're not actual leaders. They're just, I posted this last night, they're like elected officials, you know. They're people who have been given a job that has some authority. I do not see any of the quote unquote world leaders right now as actual leaders. I see us as leaders. And if we flipped that paradigm on its head and we went, yeah, you know, me waking up every day and choosing joy in my life, choosing something different, being kind to me, honoring the earth, and then allowing that to spill over into my relationships with other people and how I create my life and my body and my business and all of it, like that is so different. If you started choosing that more than you currently do, and you started acknowledging that that was a huge aspect of actually being a leader for a different possibility, it's like we are futurists, you know. This is a reality that can, and I say will be, if I have anything to do with it, I'm like, this will be, you know, this is what I freaking came here for, you know. And this is, but the only influence I have over that occurring is if I choose it with me. You cannot be kind to other people if you're not kind to you. You cannot be honoring of other people if you're not honoring of you. You can't be honoring of the earth if you're not honoring with you. You have to choose it with you. And that, then it create, and you know, like, you know, when somebody is like, and you see this, you know, sometimes with access consciousness, where there are people that are like, yeah, use the tools, yeah, you know, but they're not being, I'm just going to end the sentence there, right? They're not being, they don't have a sense of connection to themselves. They don't have a sense of honoring themselves and kindness with themselves and presence, even willing to be present. I mean, there are people that are facilitating this work that have never been present with themselves, you know. And there's an energy there where you're like, oh, you know. And then we override it, we have an awareness, and then we're like, there's not, like, there's something incongruent there, you know. But then we're like, oh, don't be judgmental, blah 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 blah, you know. And then you know, whatever, you project that this person is actually something that they're not. Guess what happens? Then you have to diminish you and invalidate everything in you. All the awareness that you have, you invalidate your awareness. That is abuse of you. Abuse is an invalidation of your awareness and your being. Other people do it to us. We do it to ourselves all the time. Everything, all of that is, can we destroy and uncreate it? Right, wrong, good, bad, all name, pock, pod, shorts, boys and beyonds. So, so this is let's flip this on its head, as we are doing. I just want to acknowledge that. And really, it's like, this is where you being willing to be the crazy motherfucker that you are, who's like, yeah, you know what? Joy. Like, I'm going to choose that. And I'm going to acknowledge that if I'm really enjoying my life and I'm really willing to be something different with me first, and then I can be that different, I can be different with other people. If I'm actually choosing that, that is the beginning of me being a completely different leader. And, you know, the current quote unquote world leaders would be like, you're crazy. You know, like you're like, you know, whatever, you're woo woo or metaphysical mumbo jumbo or whatever, you know, that's not valuable. Joy isn't valuable. Joy is just like something that shows up every once in a while when you have money and you've gotten everything right, you know. But getting it right doesn't, that's the only thing that you can do once you've got it right is get it wrong. You know, there's two sides to that coin, and it's the coin that's never going to get you free. But when we go, you know what, I know the entire world thinks that this is all real and true. I'm going to play over here on this playground in this universe, and I'm going to trust me, and I'm going to have way more fun than I'm supposed to, and I'm going to have kindness with me and the rest of the world, and I'm going to be aware, and I'm going to trust myself. I'm not going to doubt myself. I'm going to choose different things. I'm going to show up. I'm going to have the back of me and other people that are choosing consciousness and the earth. You know, it's like, again, that like substantiation of this completely different reality that the world is begging for begins to show up more and more and more and more and more. And as we do that, like I said, we are futurists. Like this is, to me, I'm like, this is where we're going in the world. And there are already people going, oh, wait a minute, hold on. I think you're onto something, you know. We may have all experienced that, you know. People are, you know, pandemic, lockdown, economy, blah, 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 blah. You guys all may have had somebody come to you and go, hey, you know, I need some help here. Like, or what are you doing that's working? Or, you know, and this is the sort of grassroots, you know, the way that consciousness and a greater possibility for the world spreads like freaking wildfire, because it's the only thing that is actually true. Everything else is a construct. Everything in this world is a construct, like money, business, like all these things, relationships, it's all a construct. When you're like, all right, that's cool. We've been doing that for a long time. I'm good. You know, you don't have to like leave this reality, but hang out in your own reality. You know, even if people call you crazy, hang out there longer than you did yesterday. Today, hang out there longer than you did yesterday. And then tomorrow, hang out there longer than you did today. You know? And this is how a different reality shows up for you. And then snowball effect. You know, a little bit of snow gathers momentum, more snow. Before you know it, it's a fucking avalanche. Let's have an avalanche. Rock the fuck on, Heather. I love it. I love you, Carla. So yeah, any other questions or comments or?
Yes, I have a question. Sometimes I perceive that I'm choosing to not be aware.
Yeah.
It's like a sensation that is hard to be aware all the time. So how can I change that, and how can I have more easy with that? And
yeah, great question. Yeah, I mean, awareness is an interesting thing. It's a wonderful thing. It's such a gift, and it can feel like a curse, you know, because we are all way more aware than we think we are. And when it does, that's when, well, for one, we have an amazing tool in Access Consciousness. It's called Interesting Point of View. It's one of the 10 Keys to Freedom. There's a book called 10 Keys to Freedom. Read it if you haven't. If you have, read it again. It's amazing. And one of the keys is Interesting Point of View. It's 10 tools that will truly create freedom in every, like total freedom in your life. It's really quite cool. Interesting Point of View is a tool that you use to actually create more allowance. And when you have an abundance of allowance, you have an abundance of awareness with ease. It's when we are aware of things that we are not in allowance of, like you want to change, or you you know, you don't you don't like, or they bring up shit for you or whatever, like you can't tolerate, you know, that is when awareness gets really tricky, because you're like, I can't, I don't want to be aware of this. I don't want to know that people are so crazy. I don't want to know that, I don't want to be aware of the 8 million things that I'm aware of right now, you know. But so for one, expand your zone, expand out, like just, and you guys are all doing it as soon as I said it. It's not something that you have to like, you know, jump around on one foot both ways for 10 seconds or whatever, you know, like you just ask, okay, I'm going to expand my zone right now. More space, you know. Interesting point of view. I have this point of view. Interesting point of view. I have this point of view. Interesting point of view. They have this point of view. Interesting point of view. I have this point of view about their point of view. Everything is a point of view. And hardly anything is actually relevant. It's another kind of newer conversation and tool going where you go, is this relevant? Not much is actually relevant to an infinite being. And when you recognize all of that, it's like, oh, all right, then I can be aware of a lot of stuff, because you don't have to do anything with what you're aware of. You don't have to change it. You don't have to want it to be different. You don't have to do anything with your awareness. This is one of the things that people oftentimes think they have to do something with everything that they're aware of. You don't ever. You can, if you're aware of something, you're like, oh, there is action required here, or there's action that I could take here that would change things, you know, then you can. You have the choice to. But when you have allowance, you have a lot of allowance, you can have a lot of awareness with ease. And then, because the flip side to that is when you cut off your awareness, when you're like, I don't want to be aware, so I'm not going to be aware. And we do lots of things to cut off our awareness. That is where we really stick ourselves. And we actually, you know, Gary and Dane both say, like, you know, 10 seconds of unawareness can create lifetimes of limitation. Basically, like when you cut off your awareness, you can create crap, very, very dynamic crap, very far into the future. So cutting off your awareness is a degenerative choice for you. It's also not a wrong choice, but you got to recognize that when you diminish your awareness, you will diminish your future, and you'll diminish what you can create and what you can receive. When you expand your awareness by expanding your allowance, then you actually expand your awareness also of possibilities and what you can create. So just, you know, recognize that it's just a choice, no right, no wrong. And if you don't have a point of view about anything, you could be aware of everything. Cool. Thanks for that question. Okay, I think we're gonna end. I'd like to honor the time since we're at an hour. Thank you guys. We'll put this on YouTube and SoundCloud and, you know, all the places, and people can also sign up and receive it. And so please, you know, if you're willing, please share. I really would love for a lot of people to have this conversation. It's just, yeah. And let's acknowledge too, on this kind of ending note, let's acknowledge what it is that we are already being that is dynamically creating a different world. So everything that doesn't allow us to acknowledge everything that we are all being every day and doing and choosing every day that is truly creating a different future, can we destroy and uncreate all of that? Right, wrong, good, bad, all nine, POC, POD, shorts, boys and beyonds. And that's going to be, acknowledgement is always very energetic. You know, it's not like you can define it or put words to it or be like, oh, right, I did this and then this. It's not about cause and effect. It's about going, wow, what am I actually doing that's creating a different, you know, what am I being that's different? What am I doing that's different? What is creating a different world here? What future have we already created? Because that's one other piece, is when you don't acknowledge the future that is already showing up, you judge that it isn't, then you actually kill it as well. Because everything gets created energetically before it actualizes. Sometimes it's very quick, sometimes it takes longer. So creating a future is this, it's this sort of, there's a long game to it, you know. And you know, seekers like us don't tend to be real heavy on patience. You know, patience is not usually a capacity for seekers. So, but this is where when you go to, okay, I'm going to acknowledge, like just by asking and perceiving the energy and going, wow, there is a future that is rapidly actualizing right now. It doesn't look like we thought it was going to, which is kind of always the case with creation. It looks like nothing like we thought it was going to. It looks like a pandemic and economic destruction and, you know, all this stuff. But it's like, shit's got to fall apart, you know? And if we go, okay, if we recognize that how that all works, basically, and that as this is crumbling, there's this, like, this is that, you know, kind of tsunami where the water all goes out and then the tsunami comes, you know, and let's get ready for the tsunami. It's coming and we are it. We are the tsunami. So on that note, go forth and be the tsunami of joy and kindness and choice and contribution and consciousness and juiciness and hedonism and all those great things. Cool. Thank you guys so much. Have fun.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Heather. Been brilliant.
Going swimming.
Thank you, love.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Thank
Bye,
you.